Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second edition of BIM Talks. I am Pratap Dhopte, and I'm the owner of Exlice. We are a global company based out of the New Jersey and with a back office in India, where we have a large team of people who work on various BIM projects. Today, we have a very unusual guest, Ralph Montague, who is a qualified and registered architect. He's a graduate from the University of Cape Town, South Africa, moved to Ireland in 2000, and has worked on one of the island's largest commercial architectural practices as an associate and project leader. He's managed large scale mixed use residential developments, commercial, office, education, and master planning projects. Ralph has a keen interest in technology, innovation, and efficient systems of managing construction projects. He co-founded ArcDocs in 2009, which is a specialized building information modeling practice in Ireland. Ralph oversees the business development and design management aspects of this practice. He's also involved in a number of industry groups promoting the adoption of digital practices in design and construction. And we'll be talking to him about his experiences with BIM, other technologies, where he sees the industry going, and what is it that he thinks people should adopt and do. Ralph, welcome. How are you?
Thank you, Pratap. Very well, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your audience. Looking forward to it.
Hey, and I'm glad you put up this slide talking a little bit more about yourself, because I think I made a very brief introduction. And as I can see here, you have done a lot of work in BIM, especially in training of people, which is really amazing. 6,000 people plus more trained in BIM is something really to be proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we've been in the business for quite a while, and as you said, my background's in architecture, but when we started out, we realized 12 years ago that the industry in general wasn't aware of BIM, wasn't aware of the benefits of BIM. So, consequently, we had to take up a role to educate the industry, and so consequently, I've got involved in a lot of industry groups trying to sort of educate people on the awareness and the benefits of BIM to help people adopt it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business.
Hey, that's good. So let's begin with what is the story behind ArcDocs, and what really inspired you to start BIM Coordinators Summit, which is one of the big events that is upcoming in the next few months in Ireland. So let's talk about ArcDocs and BIM Coordinator Summit.
Yeah, sure. Well, I suppose what inspired us to start ArcDocs was to try and improve the way information is produced and communicated in the industry, because we found that to be very difficult. Like, we're constantly dealing with problems on projects related to poor information and missing information and information that people couldn't understand. A lot of people can't understand 2D drawings, and it was just always difficult. So obviously many years ago we were adopting 3D technologies in our architectural practice, and we found that it just became an easy way to communicate. Firstly, it was a far more efficient way of producing information, because when you use the BIM process, you're creating the information once in the model, and then you can. Right. You can view it in different ways. You can view it in plan, section, elevation, if you like, but you don't have to draw all those drawings separately. You don't have to type out the schedules separately, etc. So it was a far more efficient way of working, and it just allowed for better communication and with people, better understanding, and so that sort of improved the workflows, and so that was our starting point, and that's been our passion, I suppose, is to focus on the information. Right. Actually, maybe I'll just bring that up as a.
Sure. While you're doing that, I wanted to mention that even for Exlice, when we began, we were doing a lot of work which was all 2D, and I was coming from the computer engineering industry, and I realized that there is a much better way of doing things in 3D, and it was exactly that. That in 2D, it's a lot of information spread out across multiple drawings, which leads to a lot of misinformation, so to speak, because if you don't have a particular drawing, you don't know what's missing. And I think coordination is a nightmare. You make one change in one location, it has to be replicated all over the other drawings, and it becomes just a nightmare to coordinate. With 3D, it's what you see is what you get literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and well, and I suppose one of the things we've tried to talk to people about is, while the 3D is important, we don't want people to think BIM is just about 3D. So it's all about information and how we produce and communicate information in better ways. So, and I just pulled up this slide because
Sure.
that's what really drives me and what fascinates me is this whole idea of information being everything. And I mean that literally. Every physical thing, whether it's animate or inanimate, is a collection of atoms that come together in specific ways to form molecules, which form cells and tissues, and and that sort of code of how things are put together is information. So you could literally say everything we know around us is information, and it's so important. And getting the information right and communicating that information correctly is incredibly important. And when it comes to the built environment, it's exactly the same. Like, you can't imagine a building or a piece of infrastructure that's constructed or operated without information. Information's at the core of how things get done, how things get put together, and how things get maintained and operated. So that's our fascination, is information. Of course, when we talk about information, then we want the best technologies to produce and communicate that information, and that obviously BIM as a digital process is a far more advanced way of producing and communicating information than traditional drafting of drawings and typing out sort of notes and schedules individually. So that's what drives us at ArcDocs, and through our work in the past 12 years. And then I'm also fascinated, I suppose, about the difference between good information and bad information. Because
by the way, before you move ahead, I wanted to really appreciate the way you have been able to connect physics, biology, and architecture, one of the oldest practiced professions in this world. People have been building homes and shelters for as long as human beings have been around, I guess, and trying them all together with these is
and
really
they've always
amazing.
been doing it through communication of information. So even if there's no drawing, there's verbal communication.
Right.
Or so there's always at the heart of construction, there's the communication of information, and the better that communication can be, the better the outcome. So that's what this slide is trying to show, is that the quality of information has a direct impact on the outcome and the performance of projects. So, and like, I define quality of information like this, and the measure of the quality of information is to do with how resolved it is, how coordinated it is, how accurate it is, whether it's provided on time, and whether it's understood and accessible by people. So, and the problem, I suppose, is information in the industry is somewhere between no information and complete information.
Right.
It's very seldom complete information. So we always tend to be operating with something that's slightly less than complete information. But the more complete and more resolved it is, the better the outcome.
Sure.
Now, of course, there's a cost and a time to produce good information.
Right.
And people often think about, well, it's too expensive. And it is true, absolutely true, that if you wanted complete, trustworthy, truthful, fully resolved information, it would be the most expensive information available. That would represent 100% of the cost and time of producing the information. But on the other hand, if you gave complete and accurate information to people on site to carry out the works, and they didn't have to do any changes, any variations, any rework, any abortive work, any additional work
that's
on
a
site.
huge saving.
Then you would say, well, complete information would actually represent the actual cost of building, and then anything less would make the building more expensive. So, and everybody knows that the most this expensive and most disruptive and most dangerous place to be making changes or making decisions is on site. So,
Right.
and yet we make so many changes and decisions on site in the most expensive and most unsafe and most disruptive way. So
I think with building information modeling and 3D modeling, you are making strides toward tackling that problem. Obviously, it's
absolutely,
not a
yeah.
panacea, but it has we have made huge strides as an industry to get to that stage where you have good to complete information. Would you say
Yeah,
that?
we're getting that's definitely an improvement. So as a technology, BIM is a better way of managing and producing information, and um, and therefore it's having a direct impact on the outcome and performance, because it's you're able in BIM to resolve and coordinate problems in this digital model before you try and execute the work on site as much as possible. So, and the more you do in that digital environment, the better, because it's the quickest and the cheapest and the safest place to make changes. You know, and if we could get people to understand that, because I don't know what it's like in India, but in Ireland we still have people who sort of do BIM backwards. They sort of produce some quick drawings, 2D drawings, to get the work started on site, and then they constructing in the traditional way, and then afterwards they're trying to produce a BIM model after construction to try and meet some clients' requirements. And that's what I call pseudo BIM. It's not really using BIM the way it was
Absolutely.
intended to use, and it's just this. Well, it's almost a waste of time and a waste of
Absolutely.
money, because
I
it doesn't bring any of the benefits.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. By the way, I don't think this is local. This kind of thing happens only in Ireland. We see this a lot happening in Mid East. We also see it happening to some extent in India and other places. And the reason we see this is where there are mandates. People are doing things just to meet the mandates. The whole, I would have thought the whole idea of mandates would be that they would do things the right way. But yeah, you're right. Until people and companies understand that BIM is something very uh, information, like you say, something that is very, very basic to what they're trying to do, and getting it right the first time is important. We're still going to have people trying to do this thing where they work the old way and then just go try to do something to fill up the mandates. Uh,
Yeah,
which brings me to my
absolutely.
next question to you. And I think you have answered this to a certain extent, but there are technologies that are coming out there, right? And there a lot of them have BIM as the foundational technology, but things like AR, VR, 3D printing, drone-based surveys, digital reality capture, which are all technologies which are supposed to be offering us this next 2.0 of construction management or construction design or what have you. What is your opinion about technologies as a whole being able to solve some of the problems that exist?
Yeah, well, absolutely. That's the whole point of technology is ICT. I mean, it means information communication technology. So it's all about constantly trying to improve the way we communicate and share information between each other. And whatever technologies can improve the communications, whether that's AR or VR, or the capturing of information quickly through robots and drones, and even trying to carry out a lot of work, manual labor, through machines. I mean, it's much better for a machine to carry out manual labor than a person, because obviously people can get hurt in it. So applying technologies to make improvements is always a good thing. Sometimes it seems to me that some technologies just aren't mature enough. It's like they've developed a technology and then they're trying to find a solution for the
Yes,
technology, whereas it might be better the other way around, to find a problem and then find a technology to solve that problem.
I
But
couldn't agree more with you.
either way, I suppose it's useful to see some of these technologies and begin to imagine in your mind how those technologies might help with particular challenges that we have. But I'm always fascinated and interested in improvements, because that's what drives me, I suppose, is to improve this industry. Because firstly, I mean, I love this industry. I think what this industry does is incredibly important, because it provides the shelter and the place to work and the healthcare and the education facilities and the infrastructure that we all need as a society. So I mean,
Absolutely.
we depend, every one of us depends so much on what this industry produces. But on the other hand, this industry is still, it's very expensive, it's very slow, there's a lot of waste, it's having an enormous impact on the environment. I mean, it's still very unsafe for a lot of people, and and so this, while it's an incredibly important industry, it's also has its challenges. So we have to keep thinking about how can we continuously improve the way we work, because we've got so many needs to fulfill. I mean,
Yep.
I don't know what it's, well, I'm sure it's the same in India, but in Ireland, even, we would consider ourselves a first world country, but we can't meet the housing needs in this country. We can't build enough schools. We don't have enough healthcare facilities.
No,
So it's, so it's a challenge around the world. The industry has to
absolutely.
become better.
I think even in India, where we are developing really very fast, and soon we will be among the leading economies of the world, we are facing enormous challenges of providing good housing, good infrastructure, and doing it in a sustainable way, so that the
Yeah.
environment is safe, it is sustainable. It's a place where we can all live happily and have healthy lifestyles and not have to deal with pollution and other things. So I definitely agree with you that we have a lot of challenges in our industry, and as time goes by, we are going to be tackling those challenges with technology, whether it is BIM, whether it is any of the other things like AR, VR, robotics, AI, and all of those which will help us become more efficient at what we're trying to do, and do it at a much faster, cheaper, better way. I
Yeah.
wanted to move on from a general discussion about BIM, information technology, and the role that you're playing in ArcDocs to one of your big initiatives, which is the BIM Coordinator Summit and the BIM Heroes program. I think you've started those two with a goal in mind, and I would love to hear about BIM Heroes and the upcoming BIM Coordinator Summit that's going to happen in Ireland. Could you give us a brief about
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Maybe I'll just start talking about the idea of the heroes, because
Sure.
when we look at the industry, obviously we see a number of players in the industry, and I suppose we began to sort of name those. So we see people who are really driving things forward, who are taking responsibility to implement these technologies and trying to make things better. So people who are, you could describe them as trying to be part of the solution. And
Right.
and these are people that are fascinated and focused on improving the quality of information and communications, and trying to bring about better outcomes.
Yep.
And so we've called these people the heroes. And then on the other side, we also see the villains in this story, people who are part of the problem. I mean, there are people who are either avoiding responsibility or even purposefully obstructing and perpetuating the production of outdated and cumbersome and difficult information to work with. And these are the people that are making the industry less efficient in the way it works, and they sort of, they're the reason the industry is struggling to meet its goals. So what we did with the BIM Coordinator Summit is we wanted to focus on the people who are doing good work, and we wanted to celebrate and recognize and appreciate these people. And so as part of that, we created this idea of the BIM Hero Award, which is effectively a token of appreciation. And we wanted to create an opportunity for companies and organizations to recognize and appreciate people they identified within the industry. And so that's what the BIM Hero Award was about. So companies could nominate somebody. If you had somebody on your staff, or maybe a colleague or a friend that you knew, you could nominate somebody for this award. And what we would do as part of the BIM Coordinator Summit community is we would announce that, and the person getting the award would feel appreciated, which in itself was a good thing, because often we find the people who are doing excellent work in this area are often people in the back office somewhere, and they never get
Yes,
appreciated. And so, yeah, that was good. The person got recognized and appreciated publicly. And then the company that was giving the award also got recognized and appreciated. So, and the idea was to turn people's focus from the villains and the bad things and put their focus on the
no,
heroes and the good things that are happening in this industry, because there are fantastic companies doing excellent work, and behind that there are people, individuals who are really, making a difference. So that's what we were trying to
absolutely.
do. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with you. In the last so many years of working on multiple BIM projects, we've come across many such people who have taken the time to learn something new, put in the effort to support the goal of making things easier, better information sharing, better use of technology. And yes, very often their efforts initially at least go very unappreciated. And I think BIM Heroes is an amazing way of recognizing them. So the
Yeah.
upcoming BIM Coordination Summit, which is going to happen, I think, in September in Ireland, is that correct?
Yeah.
And that is,
Yeah.
you are expecting to see a lot of people coming from Europe and UK and Ireland. And of course, I know we are traveling from India to attend, but there must be a lot more people coming internationally. Could you tell us a little bit more about what's happening on the
Yeah.
show and
Well,
what's
this is
been
the
planned?
second. Yeah, this is the second. So the first event last year was an all virtual event, and
Oh, yeah, because of
we
the
it
pandemic, of course.
yeah, and we had 15,000 people from 100 different countries
Oh
register
my
for,
goodness.
yeah, for that event. So, and the idea was to create a community of people who are focused on BIM and producing better information and begin a conversation. So we had a fantastic lineup of speakers last year. We had about 38 speakers who gave presentations, but also participated in panel discussions and to get it started. But this year we decided to do a hybrid event. So there's going to be a live event in Dublin,
Okay,
but there's also going to be, at the same time, that everything that happens in Dublin will be broadcast to a virtual event platform to cater for the whole community. So we don't want to exclude people just because they can't travel to Dublin.
hmm
So there will be it's a hybrid event,
that's a
and
wonderful idea, I
so
think.
yeah, so we're expecting maybe about 500 people to attend the event in Dublin, and hopefully, 5,000 plus will attend online, and just to continue the conversation. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers, about 100 speakers
Wonderful.
from all around the world, covering different topics, and I think we just want to keep the conversation going and focus the attention on the good work that people are doing. So that's that's
Excellent.
the whole sort of objective behind the BIM Coordinated Summit community. We want to move forward, and I've just put up this slide because that's we always want to describe this journey of moving forward and making things better. And of course, it's never easy. Like it's not as if you just look forward and everything falls into place. So as you move forward, you'll always encounter things that will either help you or hinder you. And so personally, like I'm quite interested in this idea of the order and chaos of things, where certain things are known and predictable and you can plan them out, but other things are complex and unpredictable, but you still have to deal with it as a BIM hero. You have to move ahead, and you have to continuously navigate this journey. So it's never a straight line. It's you're navigating this journey to make things better all the time by sort of negotiating with the order and the complex of the the way the world works. And
Absolutely. I think all
yeah,
of us who
so
have gray hair have come to realize that it's never a straight line. It's a little bit of
absolutely, yeah,
progress, a little bit of detours, and then you hopefully get to that place where you want to be.
yeah.
Thank you
But the
for
things we're
thank,
trying to in the BIM Coordinator Summit, we're trying to focus on is developing leadership within the sector, because that's, I think, we need companies and people to take up the challenge and lead themselves and lead others, and also to follow people that have done good work. We also want to promote the adoption of standards. So I mean, standards also is one of those things that a lot of people find standards boring or maybe complex or whatever, but it's the reason everything works. I mean, the reason you have
Absolutely.
clean drinking water and good electricity, the reason that you and I are having this conversation across the world right now is because of standards, and
Absolutely.
in communication technologies. We recognize that there's a real challenge in competency in the industry. There's a lot of work to do to develop digital competency amongst people in this industry, and so that's a big thing we want to focus on. And then the whole way in which procurement works has to be rethought, I think, to sort of work with the latest technologies and processes. So I think a lot of our procurement processes are still very outdated and based on sort of old ways of working. So
Right.
so those are the kind of themes we're
Well,
trying to build into the conference and
wonderful.
get the
I for
discussions
one,
going.
am looking forward to either virtually or physically attend. I know Sonali from my office will be attending physically. I am still trying to see if I can come there, but I would definitely be attending it virtually, if not physically. I know
Yeah.
we have a little time left because this this conversation has to be limited to about 15 minutes
Sure, no problem.
because of LinkedIn. But let me ask you one final question. What does the future look like for our industry? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, we're definitely moving forward, and for me, what I would like to see is I would like to see buildings and infrastructure being more accessible to people in the world. And what I mean by that is it has to be quicker and cheaper so that more people have access to good living conditions, good working conditions, good education, good health care facilities. So yeah, the built
Good
environment has
roads
to,
and good bridges and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Yes,
and communication and water and energy, and it's up to this industry to deliver that infrastructure, and we have to deliver it quicker, we have to deliver it cheaper, we have to deliver it in a way that's more sustainable to the
absolutely.
environment. So we have to stop being so wasteful. I mean, the industry is incredibly wasteful when it comes to materials, etc., and also the production of CO2. I mean, the industry is responsible for 40% of the
Yes,
CO2 production. It uses about 40% of the energy of the world. It wastes about 20% of the raw materials. So we've got to change that and become better. But we also have to become a safer place to work. It's a very dangerous place, and maybe too labor intensive, too dependent maybe on strong muscular men, and less inclusive of other people. But I think that when we begin to adopt these digital technologies and you're doing more stuff through technology than you are physically, that allows the industry to become more inclusive as well. So
yes,
we
it
can,
does.
yeah. So that's what I see for the future is an industry that's better performing, better and delivering better outcomes.
Well, Ralph, thank you so much for joining BIM Talks today. We really appreciate all the effort that you're putting in as part of ArcDocs, as part of the BIM Heroes moment, and obviously the BIM Coordinator Summit. We really love you for doing this. We look forward to being an active participant in all of these initiatives that you have, and hoping to learn and help you take this, take our industry to the next level in terms of what we can achieve, especially from the perspectives of all those people who depend on this industry to deliver. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for being
Pratap.
part of
Yeah,
our conversation today.